Melody says she has no sound. She's going to log off and log back in. So, Erica, I don't know if you want to get started or wait for her.
Yeah, so we have quorum right now?
We do. Yep. You've got Alan, Hunter, Liz, you, and then when Melody jumps on, back on, you'll have 5.
Okay. So hello, everybody. We have quorum, so let's get this meeting started at 6:54 p.m. There was a little bit of confusion about being able to meet at the community center, so a few of us are in transit, but hopefully soon we'll be able to meet in person. I do not have the itinerary up or the agenda up for the meeting, so Garrett, if you don't mind jumping into that, that would be awesome.
So, and I can do this for Garrett if that's easier. So we don't have Chris here tonight, but the first thing was Safer Main Streets Project. Yeah. And we're really looking for the scorecards to be filled out. If that hasn't been done so yet, we want to try to get that resolved, at least get him the results of that this week. But we might need Melody for that conversation. So maybe let's table that until she jumps back on, but how we want to handle that scorecard piece.
How many folks have not been able to do the scorecard?
Like, I don't have a way of seeing the results here. So, like, is that something, Erica, that Melody could then see on the back end? Or how might I see the results here?
Yeah, Melody's going to know how to pull that up.
So actually, I just figured it out. So it looks like we've got 6 people have completed it. So I would argue that it's in a good format for me to share with Chris. And so it looks like.
Did I do that, Miranda? This is Hunter. Sorry to interrupt. Because I felt like I did it. I felt like I did it a few months ago, but then, yeah. But now I'm.
So I think you did, Hunter, because I do have some entries from a few months ago here.
Yeah.
And then I've got like some newer ones. So I feel like while we may still be missing one board member, this is still a great for Chris to operate off of. So I will go ahead and share with him this document. And then is there anything really notable though that I should take note of for this scorecard and the SMS grant? Okay, what I'd like to do then, I guess if we have questions, we'll try to reconnect, but I think I can work with what's here. I might just spend a little bit of time looking at these results, and then perhaps before we adjourn, Erica, if it's okay, if I have questions, maybe we can revisit.
Well, it seems to me like it was a really good project, and it's sort of like, what is not to like? I mean, yeah, I think he's crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's, and it's a great benefit to the town. And he's done more than due diligence in getting feedback.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's definitely, obviously, the grant, the biggest thing about grant is increasing public safety, and I think that's important. It looks like, now correct me if I'm wrong, this is scored 1 through 5, right? Is that how you all do this? It looks like it. With 5, the rating scale is 5 is like an excellent score. Is that correct?
Miranda, I actually think it's 1 to 4. It may come out as 5, but 1 would be an A. So
okay, thank you. You're right.
Option. Okay. Yeah.
So the closer we get this to 4, the better off we are. So if we have an overall score of 3.9, that means that people that the rating would be kind of well in terms of like you're feeling comfortable with this grant because it scores in the higher threshold. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. My only question would be if it's projected on a 1 to 5, and so that would be 3.9 out of 5. Melody would know more about that, but it may be 3.9 out of 4.
It's a 1 to 4. I was calculating out the 5 with the NA. So you're right. The score is 1 to 4, and then people have the option of selecting NA.
Yeah, that sounds accurate then.
Cool. I think this all looks great then, and this is exactly what Chris wanted. So unless there's any other feedback, I'm going to go ahead and share this with him.
Hey, Miranda, I got to put together an official document with all those scores from the response spreadsheet.
Got it.
Yes,
Is that something you'd have time to do, like within the next week or two?
Yeah, it's all. I actually already started it with
with a
couple scores that we got, so it'll definitely be done. Hopefully by the end of tonight. I'm just kind of rushing, trying to get back home. I'm still.
Yeah. Do you, Melody, ever share this spreadsheet with Chris and I guess he could see it, Chris, in its entirety, or you typically share that report you're talking about?
Typically we just share the report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I will let him know. I mean, if you're able to send it either like today or tomorrow, I know he'll be ecstatic. And if I can help in any way, you let me know.
Yeah, so what I was gonna do now, if you just want to go ask him about, then you can go. Yes. So you're looking at the responses spreadsheet, right?
I am, and I see you've got the preview only scorecard, but then it's preview only. But I was looking at the spreadsheet of results.
Okay. Yeah, and in there, down below, I have everything all where it should automatically calculate whatever the average score.
Yep.
And as long as we let him know what that average score is, we should be okay. Like that's really the main thing he knows. And then the report will include like individual comments and the breakdown of the different categories and what those different category scores were. But that main overall score is what we're looking up for of did it pass the scorecard.
Your overall score currently is a 3.9.
Yeah.
So okay, I'll let Chris know that this is on its way. And so really he just, because he couldn't be here tonight, he was just hoping to get the feedback. So it sounds like we are very close to that.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're good then. So Melody, you just let me know if I can help at all with pulling that together.
Yeah, okay.
So then I think we'll turn it over to Garrett for the rest.
Yeah, so I'm not sure an updated agenda was sent out. So there's a few things to be talked about at the meeting. The first is the grant that we applied for last week. So I'll talk about that now. But before I do that, we have a proposal from Shannon. She'll be joining the call at 7:15, so we've got a little bit before she joins. And she wants to dedicate some time to update our sustainability documents. She's a graduate student from Western Colorado. And then we also want to have a discussion about the 2018 building codes. So we'll start with the grant that we applied for last week. We applied for the funding of the construction, basically of staff time, and there are some materials for that, to build some recycle bins for town events. This is a project that Chris Pelletier was trying to get off the ground last year, but due to COVID and resource constraints, they weren't able to finish the recycle bins. The idea is that these bins would be they're huge. They're recycled 330-gallon totes, these containers of that I guess they're chemicals that the wastewater treatment plant uses. So they're recycled in that way. So we're able to use these huge bins for recycling material. They can be picked up by a forklift and disposed into a dump truck. So it sort of eliminates the needs for a bunch of volunteers and that sort of thing. And we'd build these with Velcro signage so we could put labels on the actual products that are being disposed of. So that's one part of the grant. And the other part is we're going to fund the transportation of hazardous materials and hard to recycle items. So that the plan is for a few months, area residents would be able to drop off hazardous waste and hard to recycle materials, and either Public Works or a vendor would be able to drive that material down, maybe once or twice a week down to Boulder somewhere. So that's the plan for that waste grant. I'm not exactly sure when we'll be able to hear back from them, but I anticipate in a month or two. Any questions on that grant? All righty. I'm not sure exactly which. I don't really want to talk about the 2018 building codes right now because we only have 10 minutes before Shannon joins us, unless Shannon has already joined us, which I don't think she has. And so the other item is the Sustainability Action Plan update, which Shannon will do when she gets here. So I guess the floor is open for 10 minutes if we want to do that.
My recommendation would be to talk about the alternate. I think that's the easiest conversation of the other two. Is the board of trustees recently decided that they would like to consider adding in an alternate for SAB and ProSAB. The person would not be a voting member unless we were short the people. We didn't have all 7, or we needed that person for quorum. Then they would be eligible to vote. But the nice thing about an alternate is it kind of keeps someone in the queue so that as the board changes over, or if we are short, they know what's going on and they can easily step in. I just need to know if there is SAB buy-in, and if so, then we'll start working on bylaw amendments. So if it's okay, Melody and Erica, kind of after discussion, I would be looking for an official vote on if you support the alternate position. Does anyone have any questions about that?
Is this strictly for SAB or is this for other commissions too?
Yeah, it'll just be for SAB and ProSAB to start.
Yeah, I think the reason I proposed this was we occasionally didn't get quorum, but that's pretty rare. What I noticed more was that we didn't have a lot of people show up. So I always think the more the merrier. And I felt that, if we did have a situation where people didn't make it, would have that extra person to potentially sit in for a quorum. But it was more the issue that sometimes we had quorum and that was it. We didn't have any extra capacity to work on things. So I don't see any downside to it, frankly. And when I was in Fort Collins, it was pretty common to have that position. And I was an alternate on the planning and zoning board, and I got to vote about half the time. So I thought it was a good way to get up to speed and make some kind of contribution.
I think we also saw too, when there was, Erica's reappointment, the 2 vacancies, we had 5 people interested in 3 positions. So it would be great if we had the opportunity to bring on Greg or Alexi, if either one of them were still interested to serve in that alternate type role.
Definitely.
Ms. Hunter, I agree with Alan, and I think it's a great idea. The more the merrier. And if they're, it's from the last interest, recently, there are more people out there that want to participate and add their expertise and pitch in, I think that there's only good to be had from that. So I totally support it. I think it's a great idea.
Hey y'all, it's Erica. I absolutely am in agreement as well, and I think we're very limited by our bandwidth as a board, and I found over the years that people are interested and then they never really show up again. And so I hope that it would bring on some more responsibility for folks to show up more regularly and to be part of some of these subgroups or carry a torch with a conversation or topic that they're interested in versus people just showing up with their official spot on the board.
Laura, do you, or Liz, do you, I'm going to take Hunter, Alan, and Erica's statements as voting for yes, but Liz, Laura, do you have a Melody? How do you feel about it?
I think it's a good idea. I don't have any problem with it. It seems like it makes sense.
Okay, great.
Yeah, this is Melody. I know it's something that we've been asking for a long time, so I'm happy it's happening.
Cool. And Liz, I know I think that was Laura before I didn't have my screen up. I think, Liz, I know you're new, but thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like I'm glad to hear that there are other people who are interested. And I agree with the group that, especially if we're limited in voting by the number of people who show up, if we can have an alternate, I think that makes our meeting time more efficient and we get more things done. So I'm for it.
Perfect. So I will move forward with that, but since we have to do kind of your bylaw charter amendment in order to make these changes, now is a great opportunity to also review those as board members and see if there's any changes you'd like to see made. Specifically, they're really resolutions about the creation of SAB, and if there's adjustments, what I'll do is I'll email you these documents. Please respond back to me by August 12th. So that I have time to pull together your amended kind of charter or bylaws and bring it back to you in August for feedback. And I'll send that out in an email right now.
That sounds great. Thank you, Miranda.
Yeah, I didn't take up the full 10 minutes. So I don't know. The other discussion, the other action item was to select the co-chairs and the secretary. I don't know if you want to start having that conversation and then stop, or how you want to work that.
Yeah, I think typically we start with like if anybody has a nomination they want to make, they want to nominate anybody for chair or secretary. And then if there's no other nominations, then we'll just do like a self-nominate and then so if anybody has any suggestions or would like to volunteer as chair, co-chair, secretary, speak now.
I'd like to renominate Melody as the chair. It's all that I've known, and I just have watched you do a dynamite job holding all the pieces together, and also, really showing leadership in doing a lot of the work yourself, whether it's the farmers market or the greenhouse or energy efforts or whatever that may be. I'm always so inspired by having you at the helm, and so I'd love to nominate you as chair again for this next round.
I would second that nomination. I was about to make the same nomination. I think that there's so much that goes on with this board that you need that continuity somewhat to be effective, to know what's going on.
Melody, do you accept that nomination?
Yes, I will. I'd be happy if somebody else wanted to chair, but I will accept it.
Well, and for those of you who don't know, SAB is unique in that sense where there is a chair and Melody serves that, rather than a vice chair, it's kind of a co-chair situation. So the other person, I would say, holds very similar, just not just as much weight. And so my recommendation is maybe I'll look to Alan to weigh in. I think we could do it two ways. We could just vote on the position as we go, or we could get through all the nominations and then finish a vote. Alan, what do you think?
Is Erica still going to be co-chair, or are we going to nominate her to be co-chair? How does that work?
Yeah, I think maybe let's just handle it like one at a time. Like, just put everyone on the spot though. Is there anyone else who's interested in the chair role, or is there any other nomination? Okay, then what I think let's do is just a roll call vote to reappoint Melody as chair, and I'm happy to call that. So I'll start with Liz, and it's just a yes or a no.
Yes.
Hunter?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Erica?
Yes, please.
Alan?
Yes.
And Melody? Melody, are you there? Okay, perfect. So then let's talk co-chair. Is there a nomination for co-chair? I think Alan already kind of started one, but.
Yeah, I'm nominating Erica.
I second that, Ms. Hunter.
Okay, any other comments, or anyone else want to nominate for co-chair?
So before we go further, I would like to step down as co-chair. I think it's a good opportunity for someone else to step up and take more of a leadership role, and I'll be on the staff, so I'll still be, acting in the same capacity I'm now in a lot of ways. But I think it's a good opportunity for someone else that might be interested in taking the co-chair position.
Thanks, Erica. I was going to ask you too if you accepted. So given that information, is there someone else who is interested in stepping up, or who wants to, or are there other nominations out there?
I'd like to nominate Hunter Wright as co-chair. I know she has a very full plate, but I think her leadership skills are phenomenal, and she's already working so much with sustainability at Eldora. I think it's a great opportunity for us as a staff board to benefit from her expertise and her skills.
Thank you. I'm totally honored. I feel like I just feel like I'm a little over committed right now. I'm on a number of other committees, and I feel like I wouldn't be able to put in the additional time that's required for the position. And I totally appreciate the nomination, and I feel really bad because I would love to. I just feel like I wouldn't be able to do as good of a job as I'd like to, and I know I just don't want to set myself and the board up to fail. So I appreciate it, but I think I'm going to need to not accept the nomination. Sorry.
No, thanks, Hunter. I appreciate acknowledging someone's ability, and what's already on your plate. I guess not even, we know you can do it, but what you're already committed to. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Laura or Liz? I know you're new, but opportunity.
At this time, I will not be able to accept any leadership roles for the group. I just feel like my own life is in such flux that I need to just kind of hopefully I can continue to do this. So I'm kind of at my max also.
Sure, definitely understand that. Laura, is it of interest to you?
You know, I don't have a ton of time either. And I guess I'm not really clear what the role entails as a time commitment.
Erica, do you want to weigh in? I don't want to speak for you.
Yeah, as far as the time commitment, it's much less than the chair. You guys see Melody producing agendas and, really holding that space for all of us every month. But I would say, it's important to follow along pretty closely in what Melody is doing and being able to step in if she's not available, as well as, answering emails and being available for different pursuits that the staff board has, and being able to connect with town staff when needed. I couldn't give you an exact time commitment. Maybe Melody would have a little bit more to add to that.
I don't have a lot to add off of that. Basically, helping me with the agenda. Like Erica said, if there's like specific project that needs to get done, it would be helpful to have that, person kind of help me check in with people, make sure things are getting done. And yeah, step in and chair when I can't make a meeting, things like that.
So my time is much more it's sort of unpredictable. I have commitments and clients that I don't have like a regular job. And so asynchronous work is a lot better than synchronous. If you say you got to be here at a certain time, it's tough for me sometimes to commit to those types of things. But if you say, hey, over the next few days, I need some emails sent out, that's more like feasible for my timing. What would you say is there a lot of like, you got to be here at this certain time or on this meeting at this certain time? Sometimes I can do it, sometimes I can't, and I don't always know in advance, very far in advance.
Occasionally we'll have a Zoom meeting with Garrett and Miranda or something. But you'd have at least a week's notice for that. And it wouldn't be a lot of other meetings. It would more be, I'll email you, hey, can you check in with so and so, or do you know where this thing is, or do you have anything to add to the agenda, or something like that.
Okay. Well, Melanie, I think I could help you with that. I mean, I'm probably not as good as Erica, but it sounds reasonable, like something I could help with.
Okay, so I think we have Laura nominated as co-chair then.
Yeah, and I was going to say too, Laura, if after a couple months it does feel like it's a bit too much, we can always revisit this. But it is nice to ideally leave these meetings with some idea of who's going to maintain the role.
Yeah, I'm happy to kind of step in and see if I can make it work.
Right.
I mean, I know Melody. I've got Ezra here right now. So with Kyle. So yeah, we can
perfect
work together and see if it's a fit, and I'll give it a go. How's that?
Okay.
Step in, give it a go.
Just for the sake of minutes, we'll just do a quick roll call vote again for that. So Alan?
Yes.
Erica?
Yes.
Hunter?
Yes.
Melody?
Yes.
Liz?
Yes.
And Laura?
Yes.
And I know we have Shannon, but can we just quickly do secretary super fast? just to get it done. Anyone have
if you're asking me, it's fine by me. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah, does anyone have a nomination or is interested in being the secretary?
Let's clarify the secretary role. Is that taking minutes and then being able to edit those and share those in a timely manner?
Correct. And I do want to offer a clarification of minutes. Everyone takes minutes very differently. What is statutorily required is the action that occurs in a meeting. So I don't want the secretary, if you're thinking about it, to be swayed off by thinking you have to do a verbatim. You really don't. You're just going to capture the essence of the meeting. Like tonight, you capture who was appointed as chair and vice chair, or decisions made, what the final decision is on a certain project. And we always have the recording as our backup. So it's just, but we do need to have written minutes as a part of state statute.
I'm happy to take the secretary role if there's nobody else that's interested.
Awesome. Thanks, Erica. Is anyone else interested? Okay, I'll do a last roll call then. Hunter?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Liz?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Melody?
Yes.
And Erica?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, we have our chair, co-chair, and secretary. Thank you all. Garrett, do you want to take it away?
Sorry, I couldn't find the window to unmute myself. I hate that. Yeah, so Shannon is here. Shannon is from Western Colorado University. It's a school that I just graduated from a couple months ago. Same school that Erica is currently going to for her master's in environmental management. And so Shannon is a second year at that school, and Shannon has spent the last year working with myself and another colleague of hers on mountain sustainability indicators for the town of Nederland. And so she's here to present a proposal which would help us update our various sustainability action plans. That includes like our energy action plan, the existing sustainability action plan, the sustainability action plan update that was done a few years ago, and various other documents. And so really the floor is open to you, Shannon.
Sweet, thanks. Yeah, so like Garrett said, I've been kind of already working with you guys. I've been on a few of these calls over the last year, but kind of transitioning out of that project and into working on my master's project, which I'm a fellow at the Center for Mountain Transitions at Western. And so my master's work is working on sustainability and climate action planning for mountain communities. And since I've already been working with Nederland a little bit, and I went to CU Boulder, it seems like a really good fit to work on the update of you guys' sustainability plan. So basically, the way that project, that update would happen is that I would go in and synthesize and condense all these documents that you guys have. So that's the sustainability plan, the Envision 2020, the like hazard mitigation plan. There's a lot of different plans that have sustainability in them. So I just would condense them all down to one document, and then update on all the ongoing and existing, or all the ongoing and completed goals, identify some strategies to reach you guys' goals that have been already written down in your plans or that are existing in other similar sized or similar geographies, like in Gunnison's sustainability plan, for example. And then I'll be doing that with Garrett and also under the mentorship of several of my professors who are experts in sustainability planning. My mentor professor specifically has spent like 20 years working in sustainability and global renewable energy projects. So that's who's going to be kind of overseeing the project. And then at the end of that process, this synthesis process, then I can come back to this group, present some identified strategies and updates to you guys and whatever else relevant stakeholders. And the emphasis for those strategies is going to be on strategies that are bold but attainable and also that are actionable. So we don't want to just create a plan that's going to sit on a shelf. Really want to create strategies to get to achieve goals that can be done. And it's not just planning for the sake of planning, because that tends to happen a lot. What else? My timeline is pretty loosely based on the academic calendar, but could be done quicker than that, could be done by January 2022. This kind of depends on you guys' priorities. Yeah, that's pretty much a basic synopsis of the proposal, and I would love to take any questions.
Hi, Shannon. This is Erica. Thanks so much for being here, and I'm excited to hear about your interest in helping us move sustainability forward in the Netherlands. Who is your advisor, and do you know how many action plans they've been involved in up until this point?
I do not know how many. My specific advisor is Ricardo Vasquez. He's a new professor. I'd have to reach out to him. I know that he's been involved in community strategic planning all around the world, but I don't know how many specific plans. But also one of my mentors is named Dr. Chavez, and he kind of pioneered climate action planning. And he's really close with ICLEI, if you guys are familiar with ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability. So there's a pretty robust set of professors and knowledge at Western to oversee this project. That answers your question, kind of.
Thanks, Shannon. That's great. What else? What would you need from us to set you up for success?
Yeah, so Garrett and I have been chatting about this a little bit. I really don't want to create just another project that becomes a burden on this group, especially since you guys are volunteers. So a lot of the grunt work I'll be doing as part of my project, and then coming back to this group, I'm hoping that we can do some workshopping of strategies that I've identified, and I'd love to come down to Boulder or to Nederland, not to Boulder, and talk about it in person over like a luncheon or something, but it would definitely be a few hour workshops to talk about the identified strategies, and then this group would have to accept the final draft to be published, and then maybe additionally some outside stakeholders from this group, like identifying who we can talk to from the city or from public works or other nonprofit groups that are doing environmental stuff within Netherlands, the school. Yes, exactly. So I would love to have sustainability strategies that they could implement into the comp plan next year or vice versa. But it would be really nice to have it like streamlined so that the sustainability plan and the comprehensive plan have the same goals, not just different ones, because that's not helpful.
This is Miranda. I just wanted to jump in. I think this is great because we just finished Envision 2030 that has a sustainability piece. And to your point, the point is to have documents that can start to kind of funnel the comprehensive plan that are integrated in the final results. And so if this were to occur now, as we secure the funding for the comp plan, we'd have that baseline to operate off of. So just food for thought for SAB is, I think it's really timely and would have a huge, it would be a really large asset for that next process of the comp plan.
That's a good question about this to Garrett. Garrett, how does this compare with the Mountain Resiliency Coalition work? I mean, is there an overlap there? Are we sort of repeating at all?
I don't think we're repeating. We're sort of taking the next step. So using the mountain sustainability indicators, there are some recommended actions on there, but those recommended actions haven't been vetted. So part of this process would be vetting those actions and including them in the sustainability action plan. So I think it's really just taking that next step forward.
Okay, because I think to me, I don't want to feel like that work was done and then we're sort of starting over. But if it sounds like it's a next step, then maybe Shannon should be using that, what was done there, and as part of her work to be able to take a step forward from that point. Does that make sense? Or is what she's saying completely a next step in your mind?
No, it's using what was done and refining it so that we have a clearly laid out plan of what we're doing. The sustainability indicators simply just measure how sustainable is the town of Nederland. You know, sustainability is very much an objective term. And so those indicators helped us measure. And so now we need to figure out how to better increase Nederland's resilience, mitigation to climate change, and then also to adapt to climate change as well. So I think this is definitely a good thing. I know for me, I'm so in the weeds on projects that it's hard for me to look up and see like programmatically what we need to do, right? Like we have all of these action plans and it's hard for me to prioritize what goes where because I'm sort of pulled in all different directions based on, you know, the project or what grant is available, that sort of thing. So I think just Shannon's ability to bring some capacity for my role for the SAB, I think is greatly needed.
And she can sort of integrate it with Envision 2030 and the comprehensive plan so that it sort of just streamlines the whole thing. Is that?
Yeah, that would be the goal.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. That was my question.
Yeah, because in all the research that I've done of all the documents that have been published from Netherlands, they all have sort of similar goals, but some of them have different dates or, you know, different percent reduction for waste or whatever. So the goal of the whole project would be to streamline all of that into one place so everybody's on the same page, working on the same goals and targets. And that could funnel right into the comprehensive plan.
I think that would be hugely helpful to get everything kind of integrated like that. So thank you.
So do we have approval from the SAB to allow Shannon to start working on this project?
Gary, I just have a quick kind of staff question. Is your thought to do like a kickoff meeting to go through some of these documents too that maybe SAB touched on, but then kind of ended up in town staff world more so. For example, like in vision, you know, obviously we had SAB weigh-in, but that was handled by an entirely separate group. And so I'd love an opportunity when, Shannon, you get there to go through some of those alternative documents.
Yeah, Miranda, I haven't figured that out. I'm not involved much on the Envision process. And so I don't know how that process will work or how do we intertwine, but it's definitely needed.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean, oh, sorry.
No, I would say go ahead. I would just love your thoughts, and I guess more that was just kind of food for thought as you moved forward. Is that, you know, in addition to working with SAB, there just are a lot of spin-off programs that we've included a sustainability component to, but maybe doesn't necessarily always come before this board.
Totally. And I think that it's really important to integrate everybody. Otherwise, this might just be a plan that sits on a shelf.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, it'd be really awesome to do some workshops in person with a lot of different stakeholders to work on prioritizing strategies that have been identified. That's kind of how I would envision doing it. But after I go through all these documents and kind of synthesize and update what is in the last sustainability plan that's ongoing and what has been completed, what never even got started, I would love to do in-person workshops with a bunch of stakeholders.
Great, that sounds great.
Yeah, Miranda, you know, we completed the sustainability indicator work, and my challenge moving that forward is operationalizing the tool. And this tool will not just be used by the SAB. I mean, the SAB is very much into waste diversion and renewable energy, but there's other stakeholders like town planners, right? When they're looking at land use changes or things like that. So maybe it's a conversation that me and you can have offline.
Yeah.
Is that how do we involve these like ancillary groups that do a lot of sustainability work that I particularly don't have much vision on, and how can we include them in the process?
That sounds great.
Okay,
Let's do that.
I'll set up a meeting and then we can talk about, and then that might roll into the work that Shannon's doing as well.
Great.
Cool. Well, it sounds like nothing but good feedback. It sounds like this is worth doing. You know, I don't anticipate it taking much of my time. You know, I you know, check-ins with Shannon here and there, but it will be very helpful, I think, for this group to have the prioritized list of actions. And so, yeah, I don't know if we need a motion or anything like that.
I would recommend, for the sake of your minutes or just having it on the record, to make a motion and do just a quick, you don't have to do the roll call though, you could just do anyone opposed. But I do think that's beneficial.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we work with Shannon as a grad student to help us update our sustainability action planning. So is anybody opposed to that motion? Then we are all in favor and it passes.
Awesome.
Yay!
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Shannon, for joining tonight, and we will touch base soon.
Sweet, yeah, I can send you guys, if it would help, I have a 2-page proposal that kind of outlines my strategy for all of this, and I can send that to this group tomorrow or after this meeting. You have it on paper, but thank you guys so much. I'm really looking forward to this project.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon.
All right. Miranda, Melody, I was going to talk about the 2018 building codes, unless you had a different topic to discuss.
The last two things on the agenda is the 2018 building codes and then the Sunshare thing. So I think you're fine to go.
Okay, great. I'm looking for your input. This is really just a discussion. Last meeting, we talked about new construction. So these are new homes being built and applying an energy rating index score based on square footage. So essentially, if a developer wants to build a 10,000 square foot house, we're going to say that home needs to be net zero. You need to have, you need to have solar panels on there that meets the demand of energy of that home. Versus a 1,000 square foot home, those energy requirements are a lot less strict. So we talked a little bit about that at our last meeting, and that's a model that Boulder County uses. And so we haven't gotten, I guess, Miranda, do you want to talk about sort of the plan to involve developers so that we can get their input as well to sort of tee up our conversation about additions?
So similar to how we tackled Envision, we'll have a public outreach calendar that will give not only the community, but specifically developers an opportunity to weigh in. We will be putting together a PowerPoint presentation that we'll send to all developers that we currently work with to get them to weigh in. And what it was, so it's the building code 18 changes are what we already reviewed with this board a few months back. And I think the big thing we're looking for the feedback on are the energy amendments as we previously discussed. And so the month of August and early September will be dedicated entirely to gaining that feedback.
Yeah, so the PowerPoint is something that I'm working on, and it's essentially like a recommendation of where the town's going when it comes to, energy codes. And these codes that I'm working on are all amendments. They're sort of enhancements to the 2018 standard building code. So we're pretty good with the new construction. I just sort of described those scenarios with, the more square footage, the greater the energy requirements are. However, with additions, so these are existing homes that want to provide or that are just wanting to add on a room or what have you. That's where it gets tricky. Boulder County, I don't know if anybody's built a home in Boulder County. Erica might have some of that experience, but their requirements are very strict. Essentially, if you're wanting to add 500 square feet, you're going to need to insulate the whole house. They require an energy rating from the whole house, and that home might be a log cabin. And so if you don't want to do the energy rating index, you could do like a retrofit in lieu of the energy rating. So I just want to have a conversation about where there's a cost to energy efficiency, and I'm not sure if going the Boulder County route is the route Nederland wants to go. And so that's really the conversation. And I've got their code. I've got a nice graph pulled up. I can easily share that with you. I put together some cost benefits for each of their codes that I can share with you as well to help the conversation. But I really just want this to be a discussion amongst folks that live in the Nederland area.
Garrett, I would really like to see the information that you have, because I did look at some of the documents around building codes, and I really felt like I couldn't make heads or tails of them. And, if there's any feedback on, or if you can provide some information on, what's required right now and how big a change would that be? I think that the historic buildings in our town are going to be very challenging to bring up to these levels, depending on what they are. So please share.
All right, so you should be able to see my screen. And so this is Boulder County's Build Smart checklist. And so what we're talking about are the additions section. So if you want to add 500 square feet, you must do an Energy Smart assessment and advising. That's a free service. That's something that I recommend we adopt as well. You would have to do a HERS rating or 4 retrofits. The HERS rating is a comprehensive energy score that rates the whole house, not just the 500 square foot that you added, but the whole home. So if you have a log cabin and you want to add a room, there's just no way you're going to be able to reach this requirement unless you redo the whole, the whole home. The 4 retrofits are down here, and I have a supplemental document that sort of sort of identifies the costs and benefits for each retrofit. But some of these are very expensive, like replacing the furnace, the boiler, water heater. Those are a couple grand each, and that's just to add 500 square foot to your home. So those are the type of retrofits that Boulder County is requiring.
Yeah, this is Alan. I can tell you we discussed some of this at the Board of Trustees, and those kind of measures won't fly with the Board of Trustees. What we were looking at was primarily focusing on new homes, and as was mentioned, going into Old Town and forcing people to do very expensive updates would never get supported by the Board of Trustees. Now, maybe saying we should do an energy audit and then leaving it up to the homeowner, I don't think that would be a problem. But we're certainly not going to have any Board of Trustees support for forcing people to spend thousands of dollars on an older home with a remodel or a slight expansion. So I think we, rather than waste our time, although I'd love to hear everybody's feedback, I think we should focus more on new homes. And, if we're going to recommend things on remodels or additions, I'd certainly welcome your feedback, but I don't want you to feel like, you got to spend a lot of time talking about something that's never going to get approved at the next level.
Alan, thanks for sharing that. That really helps me because I didn't want to make those recommendations because of those costs. And so that's where I was leaning towards, that we just forget about the additions. The additions will be required by 2018 building code, just so that they're up to code. But really the efficiency gains are going to be in the new homes.
Can I just say that I think that the idea of a free energy smart assessment and advising is great. Maybe not required, but offered. And then I think I totally agree with what Alan said there, and that's what makes sense. So, but I think if people could at least have an idea of what they could do when the time is right to improve their energy efficiency, that knowledge is powerful.
One question I have is, I went to the farmers market and learned a little bit about the Energy Smart assessment and advising program. And then does the town of Nederland have any grants that help people once they make, I believe that's part of the program. If there's a little bit of money out there to help people, I think it would be great to continue to suggest that or require that people get the assessment and advising, and then maybe make it a requirement that they do 1 or 2 of those things, depending on how large their addition is.
That's a good point. I'm not sure of the grants available for that, but I think that's a great opportunity.
I also like that idea. And, we're going to be getting federal money to doing various things. And hopefully when the infrastructure bill gets passed eventually, that will provide something that might be used for something like that.
Great. Well, that was the feedback that I really needed to hear. So thanks for providing that feedback. We'll push forward with the new home requirements, and we'll get feedback from developers, and I'm sure we will be involving this board in every step of the process. So thank you all for that discussion.
And to Garrett's point, again, similar to like Envision, this will come back before you in August, just so you can again see the kind of the full picture of what we want to bring to the Board of Trustees.
Great. Do we want to move on to the next agenda item?
Okay, great. So Sunshare, that Sunshare program that Alan emailed about, that's the last thing on our agenda to talk about. I don't know if Alan, you want to say anything more about it, but I think what you wanted to know was, is this something we want to promote? Is this something we want to try to, tell people about, and start working on?
Yeah, I think I got an ad from them, an email ad. And so, when I get these email ads, even though I have solar panels, I like to look at what is being offered at what price. And, I want to congratulate the board and Garrett on the success of Solarize Nederland. We had great success. Garrett, how many people end up signing up?
Yeah, 10 people signed up and 57 kilowatts in contract.
Yeah, that is absolutely phenomenal. So congratulations. But a lot of people can't afford $13,000 to $15,000, even with a couple $1,000s rebate. And what's been frustrating with Excel is their options for people who want renewable energy have been pretty expensive, with the exception of Renewable Connect, which happened a few years back, where the price of signing up for renewable energy was at or below the current cost of the energy bill. So we got a lot of people to sign up in most of our businesses when that opportunity opened up. They told us they would have that again someday, and they didn't say that was going to be available. I mean, they said at our last meeting that unfortunately the corporation, Excel Corporation, decided they were not going to make Renewable Connect available again for the foreseeable future. And if people wanted renewable energy, they could take advantage of the programs they already have, which are expensive. Wind source is more expensive than Sunshare. So, it seems to me that for a middle, and we as a group, SAB and the board, we've been looking at what opportunities are out there for low income people. And unfortunately, fortunately, there was that low income solar garden that Boulder County had. The unfortunate thing is we could only find 4 people who were qualified or who applied, but 4 is better than none. And now we have something for more middle income people who don't want to spend, who can't spend 13, 14, 15,000, but for $5 a month or $60 a year, they can get, according to Sunshare, most people could offset 100% of their energy with solar in this solar garden. They had 200 slots available when I talked to them a couple of weeks ago, and they were interested in maybe helping us market this to Nederland residents. I sent this on to the board, the Board of Trustees, in my report. And Tanya was the only person that responded, but she was really favorable about this opportunity. And she has been frustrated, as we are, about how little we're getting out of Excel. But I wanted to run this by all of you to see if you think this is a potentially affordable way for people in Nederland to pay a premium, 1 cent per kilowatt, to get access to solar energy in a solar garden. And it would involve someone signing a contract with Sunshare. And then the nice thing about it is if you're renting, it goes with you. You go to rent someplace else, you take it with you. And if you're a homeowner, you know, and you change homes, you can take it with you. That's a nice thing about solar gardens. Anyway, what does everybody think about the price and the opportunity?
If you break your contract, is there, oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that at $60 a year, it seems like a great deal, and I love the idea that it follows you around. I think that's amazing.
I agree. This is Hunter, and I think the more options that we can share with residents, the better, the more resources. And this sounds completely reasonable. So I don't know why we wouldn't.
Yeah, the interest is certainly there. We had over 60 people inquire about the Solarize Nederland program. So right there, I have a list of email addresses we can send information to.
That's great.
Did they say if you exit the contract for whatever reason, is there any penalties or anything like that?
We didn't get into those kind of details. Basically, what I said is, let's have a conference call with interested members of SAB, and that's tentatively scheduled now for next Wednesday with Sunshare. So anybody that wants to talk to them about those kind of details and chat about it, we'll set up a conference call with them, and we can get more information. And I can ask them if they have anything on contract details that they could send to us in the meantime.
Yeah, please include me whenever that meeting gets scheduled, Alan. I don't see the meeting invite on my calendar.
Erica, is that included?
I missed some of this. I apologize. The neighbor just came over, but how does this compare to Renewable Connect? And have we heard any update from Excel as far as that? Because Renewable Connect will not be as good as that first round, where it was the same cost for a 10-year contract. But I'm wondering this 1 cent per kilowatt hour, how it would compare with what Excel might be thinking for that next round.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear most of what you said. You're breaking up on my end of things.
Can you hear me now, Alan?
Yes.
I'm just wondering how this would compare to Renewable Connect. That first wave of Renewable Connect was the same price for a 10-year contract. I know it's not going to be that good moving forward, but just curious if anyone's heard an update from Excel with a similar program to that Renewable Connect first wave, and how that might compare to this 1 cent per kilowatt hour. Because my understanding is Renewable Connect would be cheaper. I just don't know what their latest update is.
Yeah, I don't know how it would compare to what we signed up for with Renewable Connect previously. We haven't really asked for any data, but there will not be any Renewable Connect available in the future. So this is really only our only viable option at the moment that isn't as expensive as wind source. But I think it would be a good idea to ask Excel how Renewable Connect performed for people who signed up for it.
And then Erica asked about wind source. And I think, Alan, you said wind source is more expensive than Sunshare.
Yeah, I only glanced at it, but it looked to me like the minimum wind source was $10 a month. But I didn't look at details. It looked, when I saw that, I stopped looking. But we could dig deeper and see how it compares. But my brief appraisal was it was substantially more expensive than Sunshare. But I don't know what kind of contractual obligations they have.
I think if this looks good and it's truly $5 a month, it might be interesting to see if the town has any money or if there's any grant money to incentivize people by paying a couple months if they, show the town their contract or something like that. I just think it's like we put our money where our mouths are. We support this idea, and it could be done for very inexpensive amount of money.
Yeah, I like that idea.
There may be some opportunity there, Laura, with the American Rescue Plan. I'll have to dig more into it, but there is money for folks that have experienced hardship through the impacts of COVID, and there is an infrastructure section to that plan that folks might be able to, cover energy costs. I'll look into that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, we just discussed Tuesday night about setting aside $30,000 for people who were in arrears on their town utility bills, people who had been negatively impacted by COVID. But that might be the logical place to look to see if any additional funds are available.
Okay. And just so everybody knows, low-income folks can still sign up for the solar garden. They would just be put on a wait list. And from what Energy Outreach Colorado says, that there's a high turnover. So low-income folks can definitely still get cheaper energy using that low-income solar garden. Erica, are you able to speak to what you're writing here?
I'm not. I just pulled up a WindSource Colorado FAQ page, and I can share that with everybody. I don't know how it actually compares on someone's bill. So here's what I was looking at. Oh, I sent that to you. Send it to everybody.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to how many kilowatt hours per month you're using and how far 10 kilowatt hours will go.
I'm gonna do a quick Google search, but does anybody know how many kilowatt hours the average homeowner uses per month?
Yeah, my Google search says 900 kilowatt hours per month.
So 9 times $1.50 is over $10 a month.
Yeah, that's $13.50. That's a lot of money for a exponentially cheaper energy source. How do they get away with that? Insane to me.
Right. So I guess from I mean, are there any rules against advertising for a private company? This is really towards Miranda. Are we allowed to do this?
No. I mean, that's where it kind of gets tricky. And as you kind of heard with the Board of Trustees, there was a concern about us pushing for a private company, but that was different because of the RFP process. We'd want to bring it before the board, because like even town hall, we can't like promote certain businesses, and we have to remain neutral in that sense. So I think that we want that buy-in from them. Or Alan, if you want to talk to Mayor Larson about it, maybe he doesn't need to go before the full board. But we do walk a slippery slope there of kind of endorsing a specific company.
Well, I wanted to run this by SAB first, and then take it to BOT. And I think my conversation with Sunshare is they would do the advertising.
That's much better.
Not us. You know, I could see us maybe putting something on our website if we don't see it as a conflict of interest, letting people know it's available.
Yeah, if we're doing more like FYI only, that's fine. But once it starts to like teeter on us promoting a specific business, that's where kind of town really has to pull out from that.
Yeah, I didn't see us promoting it. The one other piece I talked about with Sunshare was possibly something for low income, but we didn't really get into any details. I don't know what their ideas are there. So I guess the question I have for the SAB is, do you support me taking this to BOT and seeing if they like the idea of us letting people in Nederland know about this? It sounded like we had generally positive comments so far.
Alan, it sounds good to me. And, you know, you've done the most research at this point, and I really agree with whoever said, you know, the more opportunities we can present to our residents, I think the better overall we'll all be. So I'm in favor of moving forward with this to the BOT, and I'd like to sit in on the meeting next week as well.
Okay, good. Should we do a roll call?
Could I just mention, I think it would be good to just make sure we have our facts together about how it compares to the wind source and just the details of it before we maybe take it to the BOT to kind of push it forward, just to be sure we know the details of it. I'm for it at this point, but if there was something that came up, we'd want to know that first, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree, Laura. I think that's a smart approach.
Alan, we might want to meet with them first and then get everybody's vote after that meeting. And I'm happy to facilitate that. Just by email.
You and Erica and I could meet with them.
Okay.
And we're the energy subcommittee. And do that on Wednesday and go from there.
That sounds great to me, Alan, and I'm guessing they have the numbers crunched. And if they don't, they'll probably want to have those available.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Oh, just that sounds good to me, Alan, and I'm guessing that Sunshare may already have those numbers available and how their product compares or program compares to others available in Excel territory.
Yeah, I would think they would. So it sounds like we have general agreement with SAB that we should move ahead and explore this option.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, that is all that we have on the agenda. I do have the Safer Main Streets project report done, so I'll email that out to everybody after the meeting. The link is in the minutes here. Is there any other items that anybody wanted to bring up, or did anybody that's a new member maybe have questions about sunshine laws or anything at all?
I apologize that I was a little bit late, but I was just wondering, Garrett, if you had any update on the CARES program. I know that the person who spoke last month, and I can't, was it Eric? I can't remember his name, but he said that he was going to kind of give us till the middle of the month to try to get people signed up. And I've been working on it, but I haven't had much luck with getting like a response from them as to like, should I keep working on it? Are they still taking applications or is it closed? And I'm wondering if you have any updates on that.
I don't have any updates on that from Dave.
Dave, sorry.
Yeah, and and I can't remember. I'm going through my notes on when those were due.
Would you mind just emailing me his contact information?
Yeah, I could do that.
I've been reaching out to people and but now I'm kind of thinking, are we past the point where I don't want to waste people's time, but I couldn't remember. I was calling their main number that was on the application, but unfortunately I called them twice. I never got a call back. So if I could just call Dave, then I would know kind of where it stands and if we should kind of keep pushing for that.
Yeah, I will connect you with Dave.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
What project is that?
This is for when Dave was at our last meeting presenting on Energy Smart.
Yeah.
And it's the CARE program. Dave was allocating a few slots for Nederland, and he wanted us to advertise. Right. And so we're just not sure when that time is up, and he's going to start advertising in other communities.
Perfect.
Guys, today I was reading my news feed and I saw that the Colorado River Basin reservoirs are being emptied to fill Lake Powell by possibly 3 feet to continue hydroelectric power. This article just kind of reminded me about the strong feelings that I had when we were discussing Netherlands water rights at the meeting where I was appointed to the board. I felt like the explanation that we got during that meeting was amazing. And I was wondering, maybe this group already has done this, but can we as a group consider making a recommendation to endorse a reservoir above Nederland? I think that the articles that I read today, again, just underscore the fact that Colorado water belongs to a lot of people. And right now, we're trusting that Boulder is going to continue to honor their agreement with us. I think if we build a reservoir, that puts us in a much safer and probably far more sustainable position for water rights for this town. I was just curious how the rest of the group feels and if we can endorse that project.
Well, I can tell you that I've been opposed to that notion for a variety of reasons, and I think it's a long discussion, and I think we should add it to our next agenda.
I definitely think my personal opinion is I need a lot more information about exactly what it would entail as far as ecological impact to make a reservoir for Nederland before I could really decide. In general, I feel like as a species, we need to find a better way to store and use water. And right now we use reservoirs, and I understand that. So I don't want to say no way, no how, I'd never go for a reservoir, but I do have hesitations about it, and I'd like to have a lot more information before just supporting it. Does anyone else have thoughts?
It's a long conversation.
Yeah, long conversation. I can send, or maybe Miranda, there was an excellent presentation given to the BOT by the lawyer, the water rights lawyer. If we could send that to the SAB, I think that would help inform them of the situation.
I agree. And then I think if there's more questions afterwards, I'm happy to jump on there. It is, as Alan's saying, it's a very complex situation with regards to, our conditional water rights and our senior and junior water rights, and a lot of the negotiations even to have water, upstream from us involves negotiation with Arapahoe Ranch. And so it's something that needs active momentum, but there are lots of pieces. So I think this presentation does help. Garrett, I agree. And then happy to discuss it further.
It'd also be good to have Chris around for that conversation too, as he's done so much work on that topic for Nederland.
Yeah, I would like to have someone like Gary Walkner weigh in, and maybe Dave Halleck, who's an environmental consultant, lives in Eldora, and have some other sources of information other than just the water lawyer.
That would be awesome. So if we put this on the August agenda, could you invite those folks, Alan?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Well, we will add that discussion of a Nederland reservoir to the agenda next month. Is there any other items to talk about? All right. If there is nothing else to discuss, then I will adjourn the meeting at 8:22 p.m.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.